Today we're gonna look at the second new deck of the new rotation update, which is Blackwing. And unlike Photon, which is I think the best deck in the format right now, this deck is not good. This deck is not good. Every time I do a deck profile, I like to be honest and tell you what I think about the deck and not pretend that a bad deck is good. If I think a deck is good, I will tell you and I will be honest about it. If I tell you a deck is good, I genuinely think that way. And this deck is not good. This deck is, I think, even worse than Red Eyes, unfortunately. And before we can get into why the deck is so bad, we must first look at what the deck is aiming to do. So let's start with the skill. The skill just adds Gale to Whirlwind to your hand. Nothing too broken. I guess it's nice that you always have a guaranteed tuner, but definitely not a very good skill even compared to the other skills that are in the format right now. So for the deck itself, we have a bunch of tuners and non-tuners. All of the monsters special summon themselves from your hand if you control a Blackwing monster, at least most of them. And that is the way that you're going to spam out synchro material, and then that is what allows you to make the synchro monsters in the deck. So Armor Master has battle protection, and you also don't take battle damage, so this is something that you can make going first. Armed Wing does piercing, and Obsidian Hawkjaw revives a high level Blackwing, so you can do even more synchro summons. And Vermilion Dragon Mech is just a generic level 9 that you can theoretically make that gets rid of a card on the field. And there are also other stuff like Blackwing Dragon and Graham the Shining Star, but we usually don't summon these two cards, so those are there, I guess. And that's pretty much it. And now let's get into why the deck is not good. First of all, the deck completely dies if your normal summon gets removed from the field. So you normal summon a monster, your opponent activates Book of Moon or any of the in-archetype ways to remove your cards on the field, like Photon's Dream of Destruction or Magician's Navigation and the Circle Banish. Anything that your opponent might have that gets rid of your normal summon completely stops your turn because all of your special summons need a Blackwing monster on the field. So if you have no Blackwing monsters, all of your special summons don't work. And that also stops the effect of Black Whirlwind to search, because the search effect of Black Whirlwind relies on you having the monster on the field, because you need to search a monster with a lower attack than the monster that you summon. So if that monster is no longer on the field, Black Whirlwind cannot check for its attack, and that prevents the search from even happening. So not a lot you can do when your opponent gets rid of your normal summon. Second issue with the deck is Black Ruin is a really good card. It allows you to search anything that you are missing, basically. So if you have a bunch of non-tuners, you can just normal summon them and then trigger Black Whirlwind to search a good level tuner to your hand to continue to do your combo. But if your opponent has an MST and they chain it to the Black Whirlwind, you cannot search anything. So not only does the deck lose to Book of Moon, it also loses to MST, and that probably reminds you of the Red Eyes deck, because that's also the biggest issue with the deck, which is that it loses to any form of interruption. So it doesn't matter if your opponent is playing a lot of MSTs or playing a lot of Book of Moons. If they draw either one of them, you are still going to have a really bad time. So the deck does have ways to play around it, namely Simoon the Poison Wind, because it lets you do an additional normal summon by normal summoning itself. So your opponent will need more than the Book of Moon to completely stop it if you have this in your hand. But here comes the third issue, which is that the grade 0 of this deck is really, really bad. We only have a single Simoon and a single Black Whirlwind on the grade 0 version of a deck. Let's reset the deck back to the grade 0 version to show you what it looks like. So this is what a deck looks like. We have a bunch of bad cards, like the two Blackwing trap cards that are just not good. And we also just randomly have a Howl the Life Barrier in a deck that has no discard synergy. And It also shares a spot with Black Whirlwind as a limit 2 card for whatever reason. There is no reason for Black Whirlwind to be limited to 2. The deck is not good enough for this card to be limited, but the main issue is that both Black Whirlwind and Simoon are only available at 1 copy at grade 0, which means if you want the deck to be remotely playable, you have to spend at least 3 grades on just adding in the additional copies of the Simoon and Black Whirlwind to make it look like the deck that I am showing you right now. So that's already 3 grades that you've used out of 5. So you have 2 free card options left to do anything to try to fix the deck. So like you can add 2 more copies of MST, for example, to hopefully allow you to get rid of your opponent's interruptions before you start comboing. But that's only 2 more MSTs in a 20 card deck, and if you don't draw the MST, or if you draw it and you don't hit the right set trap, you still lose. And also another option you can use your grades is on your extra deck. You can play a copy of Dark End Dragon, which is originally for Jack Atlas, but it is still pretty good in this deck because unlike Vermilion Dragon Mech, which is a fire monster, Dark End Dragon is a dark monster, which means even if you are locked into dark monsters, with the effect of Simoon, you can still summon Dark End Dragon and use the effect. So that's another issue with the deck, is that the extra deck options are just not very good as is. Like, you can't even use Vermilion Dragon Mech's effect if you use Simoon. There isn't level 7 that was in the meta version of the deck back in Speed Duels, like the level 7, I forgot the name of that card, that destroys multiple cards on the field. And that card would really help the deck, but it's still far from enough, but we don't even have that. All we have are really bad synchro monsters. Like Armor Master just doesn't really do anything. It just cannot be destroyed by battle, but pretty much every single deck in this format has ways to get rid of it. And it's not like you have other things to back it up. That's like the only thing that you're gonna end on when you go first. And then Armed Wing is like, oh nice, I guess it has piercing. That's it. Obsidian Hawkjoe is a lot better if you have the other level 7 Blackwing Synchro that pop stuff, but we don't have that, so this card is just chillin'. And that's it. That's all the options that the deck has. So even when the deck is able to do the full combo, the ember that it ends on is not good going second. Like the main way that you're relying on to get rid of your opponent's monsters just by battle after you lower their attack with like an effect of Gale the Whirlwind. And if you're lucky, you may be able to pop one single card with Vermilion Dragon Mech if you're not locked into dark monsters. But yeah, the deck is even worse when it goes first because there is nothing that the deck does when it goes first. So historically, the deck has always been a strong going second deck. Like the whole game plan of the deck is just to go second and then break an established board with Simoon and making the level 7 synchro that pop stuff, and that allows you to OTK. But we don't even have that option, and so the deck is now left in a state where it's not good going second and even worse going first. All you do going first is make this card and hope that your opponent doesn't have an out to it, which is pretty much impossible because you have no interruptions, so your opponent can just do their combo, and most decks can just out this card with their own combo. Like, you know, Blue Eyes can attack with their Twin Burst, or just pop it with Alternative. Dark Magician can banish it with Circle. Photon can banish it with the Quick Play spell, for example. So yeah, the deck is just terrible, and it's not like you have a lot of options to fix it either, because you already are wasting 3 out of your 5 maximum grades on consistency pieces like Blackwing Simoon, the Poison Wind, and Black Whirlwind. So there's not a lot of things you can do to make the deck good other than to like wait and hope that Konami gives the deck more options. But I don't think there's a lot they can do to make this deck good, because the main problem with the deck is the grade 0 version, and they can't really fix that quickly by just adding in more support options in the card pool. They're gonna have to edit the grade 0 deck to give us more copies of Simoon and Black Whirlwind, so that we can use our grades on generic stuff like Book of Moon or MST, or potentially the other good Blackwing cards like Zephyros the Elite or a third copy of Gale the Whirlwind. So I am honestly not sure what they are thinking with this deck, but regardless, let's have a look at some replays. Okay, in our first replay, we're playing against another Blackwing player when we are going second, because that's pretty much the only way we're gonna ever win a single game with this deck. Our opponent is going first with a Simoon in their hand, which means that they can get to do a whole lot compared to us because we did not open Simoon. And the deck really doesn't do a whole lot when you don't have Simoon in your hand. Having that card just allows you to do so much more because it gives you an additional normal summon, and it triggers your own Black Whirlwind as well with its own normal summon, so you get a lot more bodies on your field. I wonder it's just gonna spam as many monsters as they could. They're gonna make an Armor Master, and that's pretty much all you can do when you go first with the deck, because there's really nothing else you can possibly do in Archetype when you go first. So let's see if we can break his board. So about winning a mirror match, we don't actually need to completely break their board. We just need to deal enough damage, especially because they started off with Simoon, which means they already lowered their own life points by 1,000. So if we can find a way to just deal enough battle damage, we can just win the game without even having to deal with all of their monsters. And we can do that by just lowering their attack and switching their monsters to attack position and just attacking for game. Alright, in our second replay, let's actually have a look at what the deck will do against a competent deck. We're playing against Cyber Dragons, which I don't think is the best deck. It's not that bad either. Some people think that Cyber Dragons are really, really bad. I don't think that it's bad, even when it is grade 0, but the deck's pretty good. Opponent will start off with obviously Cyber Dragon Core as usual. They're gonna set a whole bunch of back row, which means even though we drew our one copy of MST, we can't really reliably get rid of his interruptions. And then we can activate Black Whirlwind and try to combo off with Simoon, but they can just get rid of it with MST, I mean Cosmic Cyclone. But because we started off with Simoon, we still have our normal summon, and we can still do a bit of more comboing. Our opponent will wait for a while after we summon our Synchro and then pop it with the trap, which means we are slightly off lethal. We are 100 life points away, and that is enough for them to survive. And that means that we are probably just gonna lose because this deck has no follow-up. And because Simoon gets rid of your own Black Whirlwind and lowers your life points, it pretty much means that you are just completely cooked if you cannot OTK. And there are actually two options that we could have drawn in our last draw phase that could have won us the game, assuming that our opponent's set back row isn't anything. We can either draw a second Gale to lower our opponent's fusion monster's attack, and then we can just attack for game. Or we can draw a copy of Blizzard to Far North, which allows us to revive a level 4 and then just make another Synchro. But we didn't draw any of them, so at least we can probably survive another turn because we drew a Book of Moon. We can at least prevent the Rampage Dragon to lethal, but they have the fusion, which means they can just tag out and then attack with Chimera over Dragon. So yeah, that's it. Don't play this deck. This deck is not good. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.